Welcome, and thank you for joining me today for Smartphone Secrets, Google, more than Maps. By the end of the class, everyone will know how to explore Google Maps and know that it is more than maps. Let's get started. Most people can use a map application, but not all have explored them to see what else they can do. Today, we will. By the way, YMMV, your mileage may vary. Google Maps is different on an Apple and an Android device, and different operating systems on Apple and Android devices. So, helpful aspects of Google Maps that we're going to explore today are locate you, show you what's around you, search for gas stations and more along your route, let you know when to leave to be on time, and to use offline maps when you're going to be somewhere where cell phone coverage is iffy or if there is no Wi Fi or connection at all. So, Google Maps. On your device, what you're going to be looking for um, is the Google Map icon. It should look something like the symbol on the left hand side here. If you do not have Google Maps on your device, you would go to your App Store and search for Google Maps and download it to your device. When you touch on the app to open it, you should get a screen that looks something like the one on the right-hand side. We're going to go over a few of these options or show you what are on these, just not necessarily in depth on all of them. So let's take a look at some of them. Starting at the very top of the screen on the right-hand side, you'll notice I have a D circled or squared off. The D showing Donna Parrotsman, so it's the D for Donna. It's showing that I am logged in or signed in to my Google account. If you were not signed into your account, there's going to be some sort of image there that's going to be is showing you that you're not signed in. So if you wanted to get full control, it's better to go ahead and sign into your Google account. But it doesn't mean you have to in order to use this. Just some options might not be available to you if you're not signed in. So if you touch on the letter or the picture up there, if you have a picture on your account, you're going to get a pop-up like the middle image that's going to show you some different choices, some settings that you can get into by then touching on these other options. So if we were to touch on settings, like the middle image has, it is circled, you would then get these choices inside your settings. Now, this is not to scare you. There are a lot of choices in here. Looking at them is good because then you're going to know, hey, wait a minute, I thought I saw that somewhere. And you can start going back and looking through them, not hurting anything, you're not changing anything, you're just going through and looking at the different settings. So inside settings, we're going to look on navigation, the first image on the left, circled, squared. When you touch navigation, you're going to get some options like the middle image where you can change the distant unit. So if it's in kilometers, you can change it to miles, scales, location sharing, accessibility. Everything that every choice you see where it has an arrow off on the right-hand side means there's more choices inside of that. So you could touch on it to see what choices are inside of that. Notice in the image on the far right-hand side, you have your map history, some notifications, shake, meaning shake your device if you want to send feedback to it. So a lot of different choices inside there. Just look around to see what you have the ability to do inside of it. Now, coming back to the first screen, if you opened Google Maps, on the far left-hand side, you'll notice that just under where it shows your Google account is signed into and where you have your search box at the top, this image is showing try gas stations, ATMs. It's where you can search for specific ones. But underneath it, there's already some preset choices. Notice it says takeout, delivery, gas, and it starts gross. Now, That's a sort of visual hint there. You only see part of that. That's to tell you there's more choices, that this would be a menu that slides left and right. The second image is showing that even though it didn't finish groceries, there would have been too many screenshots to put on there. But if you were to put your finger between some of those choices, lightly touch the screen and slide your finger left or right, you're going to get more choices. Like we can see part of pharmacies, coffee shops, hotels, and then there's a dot, dot, dot more. If you were to touch on the dot, dot, dot more, to get some more choices, you're going to see these other options that are showing on the right-hand side, where it starts with the categories at the top, where you've got food, drink, delivery, things to do. All of those choices are under dot, dot, dot more. So too many to put on a sliding menu going left and right, so they had to put it under the more choices. But I believe the most looked for items are going to be the pre-sorted ones that are already up there, like takeout, delivery, gas, grocery stores, those sort of things. But just know they're not the only ones. You can get to so many more choices inside of there. So let's move on. On the going back to the first screen that you would have for Google Maps, on the left-hand side here, you'll notice that there is what appears to be a diamond with an arrow pointing down. That's your layers maps. So if you touch that little image, you're going to get to see what type of map are you seeing on your device. Notice the first large image there, it shows satellite, traffic. Um, a lot of times, if I've not been somewhere, I prefer to see a satellite view, because that one is going to give me an image like the middle one here, where it shows you what does it actually look like. So I could bring up, say, this University Park Branch image. I could look for that and then see what's around it that I would be actually looking for when I'm driving down the road. Um, this just traffic can be so bad sometimes that, if you're trying to find a specific address, to me, it's just easier. Show me what's going to be around it. Do I need to be looking for, as this shows, there's a restaurant called Wing Depot, or the BP gas station there on the corner. So that to me is easier to find a lot of times than finding that specific little, number address on it. And you get that by looking at the layers of the map that you want to get. Notice the far right-hand image, the one circled there. That one is showing us traffic in the area. The red option, not the red that's circling it, but the little dots on the map itself. Red is going to be there's a lot of traffic and congestion in the area. Orange means a sort of medium amount of congestion, and green means there's no problems. You can zoom right along as you're going. So sort of different options inside of there that you can peruse as you go along. If you didn't want to see the traffic, how bad can it be in certain places, it's one of the options under your layers choices. Now locations is the little sideways arrow. Again, this is back on the front page when you first opened Google Maps. Bottom right hand side, it looks sort of like a Star Trek communicator button. Again, your mileage may vary. It might not look like that on some devices. This was on an Apple device, so it does look like this little arrow. I believe some of them look like a target. If you were to touch on that image, then Google Maps is going to find you. And you become the little blue dot that kind of pulses on the screen. It's a good way if you're a little bit lost to find yourself with Google Maps is touch that little icon and then see where are you on the map. Now, directions, the very bottom of the map, little crooked arrow in a blue circle. Again, your mileage may vary, but bottom right corner, the image, if you touch on that image, you're going to get a screen like the one on the far right-hand side. Notice at the top it says your location because Google is finding you. And then the choice under it where it says choose destination, that's where you're trying to go. Now, you don't have to know the actual street address for where you're going. Let's say you were trying to find the University Park branch library. You could start typing University Park Library or just University Park, and one of your choices that's going to pop up is going to be University Park Library. If you were looking for a Publix, you don't have to know where on Bay Meadows Road it is. You start typing and your choices are going to come up. You can then touch on it. Makes it very helpful. Then, well, how do I find that if how do I find the street address if I don't know the street address, sort of thing. On this image on the right, the two arrows, one pointing up, one pointing down, that's to change the direction. Instead of starting from where you are and getting somewhere, you could flip it around from where you were wanting to go back to where you're starting from on there. Just an easy touch that, it switches them around. Underneath the choose your direction, or I'm sorry, underneath your location and choose destination, you've got 6 choices. Driving with the little car on the far left-hand side. Beside that is a bus, then a person walking, and then a person holding a suitcase, somebody on a bicycle, and an airplane. From where you have searched your location to where you're trying to go, these are options for what are my directions for driving, the directions if I'm taking public transportation, the little person walking, if you're walking to that location. The one with the suitcase is if you're taking a ride sharing. The nice one on that is it will show how much it would cost you if you were taking a regular Uber or if you were taking the more deluxe Uber, the little bicycle if you were bicycling to where you were going. The airplane would actually search airlines to show you how much it would cost to get from here to there, and if there were plane fares, when you might be able to get them. So very helpful inside of Google Maps, way more than just how do I get from here to there. It'll help you how will you really get from here to there if you had to take an airplane, public transportation, that sort of thing. It's really, really helpful. We're going to put a little disclaimer in here that Jacksonville Public Library hopes that everyone stays safe when driving. What I'm about to show you has to do with inside a route. So you're actually driving along the road. Hopefully you're using these when you have a co-pilot with you. But if you're using this as you're driving down the road, you may wish to pull over to accomplish the task. So please use caution when driving. All right, so back on the first page of opening the Google Maps app, you looked up where you want to go. You've started the trip. So you told the map, yes, that's where I want to go, and I actually want to start the trip. All right. So there's an object on the road, and grandma needs to know when you're going to be there so she can have dinner ready. So what do you do? Right, so this first image is showing we looked for San Marco Library, and at the bottom you'll see where we have our start. So we're going to start the route, and you should get an image looks roughly like this, saying where you're starting from, some options at the very bottom where we've got a little tiny sort of tab. It's gray, it's underneath my little race car. By the way, one of the extras at the end of this program is going to be how you could turn yourself into a little race car if you want to do it. So very bottom, there's a little tiny gray line. If you were to lightly touch on that and slide your finger up the screen, you're going to get some choices from inside your route. So on here, notice there's a few: add a report, share trip progress, search along your route, right? So if we were to touch on the first one, the add a report, That's where you have some preset options. There's a crash, there's lane closures, there's stalled vehicle, object on the road. You could lightly touch on that, which is going to give you the option to share that information. That, hey, everybody, watch out, there's a ladder on the Buckman Bridge. Always seems to be a ladder on the Buckman Bridge. Okay. Um, Share location until you arrive. That would be so you could touch and let anybody know, hey, this is how long it's going to take me to be there, so that nobody worries about you as you're going along. So easy to do inside of their Google, more than maps. There are a few preset icons in search along your route to help you quickly find gas stations, restaurants, grocery stores, or coffee shops. So again, starting at the bottom of inside a route, sliding up your menu from the bottom, the touching search, some preset options, gas station, restaurant. If I was to touch on gas stations, I would get this middle image that's showing Exxon, Quick Detour, BP, two of them listed there, Citgo. At the particular time I took this screenshot, it's showing that gas was between $1.93 and $1.97 on the options that are showing on this screen. So nice that it's going to show you where they are. It's also going to tell you how much it might be that it would cost to get your gas. Now, the image just to the right of that is showing where I've touched on one of the gas stations, the Exxon, and my route has altered. So it's taking me to that gas station and then continuing on. So that's what this fourth image is showing us, that Exxon is a quick detour. I can touch on the add the stop to my route. And this last image on the right-hand side is looking for coffee in the area. And it's showing me how much extra time it's going to take me at the moment to actually stop at the gas station. And now if I want to add a coffee shop stop, I could add that also. So it's going to continuously redo my route and add the extra little stops along the way. So this is when you have a search and you're adding or at least looking along your route for added stops you might need to make along the way. Now, if you want to preview your route with turn by turn directions, again, we're back on at the beginning where you have your route. You slide up from the bottom where you have your route already started, and the options at the bottom preview the route, directions. If you were to touch on preview the route, that's going to be the middle image you see here, where it's going to show you from where you're starting, where the little race car is at the top at University Park Branch, and the ending location, the San Marco Library. Now on here, you'll see there's a blue line. That's the route it's going to suggest this is what you should take. Now, there's some gray routes on there. Those are options. If you wanted, for some reason, to go through the downtown area, then the option that is gray that goes through downtown, you could lightly touch on that option and it will change to blue. It will tell you how long it would take you to go that particular way and show you the traffic along the way for that. And if you wanted one of the other options, you can touch on them. It will automatically redo your directions for you. The directions at the far right is if you were to hit on the direction option, it's going to give you those turn by turns, how long, before you need to turn on this particular and which way you need to turn to get there. Google, more than maps, offline maps. All right. Download areas of location for you to navigate when you're offline. The internet is slow or that it's going to be non-existent, and mobile data can be very expensive. So you want to have something available to you that you won't require you to use cellular or Wi-Fi. Right? So you can go to Google Maps. And one of your options is going to be tell it that you're offline, so you want to do a download after you've looked for the area. Now, you might want to actually look at this before you actually are going to be in the location where that's happening, because there are some caveats to this. There's a lot you can do inside of an offline map, but there are some things you cannot do inside of an offline map. So to get to the offline map area and to do the download, the image on the far left-hand side, we're doing a search for Atlanta. And at the bottom is where, right, we've got our options. Do we want to start the trip? Now, notice we can see part of an image at the far right of the first image. Okay. When we touch on that, that's going to be something that slides left and right, right? The second image is showing one of the options that you're going to get is going to be to download the area, right? And so when we touch the download, at the bottom of the second image, it shows that it's downloading. It's at 7% at the moment. And so you just wait for it to finish the download. Now, when it finishes, you would need the middle image where you touch at the top into your Google account. And when you touch in your Google account, you're going to get the fourth image over that does show here's your choices for inside your Google account, one of which says offline maps. Now, when you touch offline maps, you get the image on the far right-hand side, any downloaded maps that you have done on your device. This has two, Atlanta and Jacksonville. When you touch on it, you're going to then have that map that you can use without a Wi-Fi connection or a cellular connection. All right, so we're back on the first screen of opening the Google Maps, and at the very bottom, you're going to see 5 items: explore, commute, saved, contribute, and updates. Okay, explore lets you see more of what's around you. So if you have touched the little icon for Google Maps to find you, and now you want to see what's around you, you touch explore, and it's going to let you see some information. Or you can enter an address when you touch on explore to find a specific area, or if you don't know the address, if you just know the name of the place, you can put that in there. Commute, this is what to expect on your daily drive. You choose if you're driving, using public transportation, that sort of thing, and it will, and you can see how long it will take you to get where you want to go at the time of day that you look. And that can change, as we know here in Jacksonville, traffic can be very slow. It takes you 5 minutes, and then at certain times of day, it's going to take you an hour and a half to get those 5 minutes. So always, try to look at different times during the day to see how long it might take you to get there. Saved is going to allow you to create lists, recall places, view your timeline. This is where you can also label locations like home or office, so that you could very easily say, I'm at this particular grocery store. I want to go home, and you don't have to actually type in, addresses and everything. You've already designated what's home or what's office or other locations. That's done under saved. Contribute lets you edit maps, add a place, write a review, add a photo, and see any reviews or places you've added. Can be nice. There was a location near me that did not have the coffee shop listed, so I let Google Maps know. They added it there. It was very exciting. And then COVID happened, and the location, that particular one, was taken over by something to help with COVID, and the coffee shop was gone. So I had to let Google know, please remove the coffee shop, and they took care of that also. That's under contribute. Updates, you get updates for you and any messages from you, for you from Google or any businesses you might be following through Google Maps. All right, some extras that you're going to be getting when you get this PowerPoint. You can check out our Google Maps blog on the library's website. There's Tech Tuesdays that we put lots of information out. There's a great one on Google Maps. Here's a link to it. And it's also the blog has some other great tips for using mobile devices. Notice also here it says having a hard time remembering where you parked. You can have Google Maps remember where you parked. And there's the how to change yourself into a race car. All right, so thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, you can email me at jple-services@coj.net. I am Donna Parrotsman, e-library specialist with Jacksonville Public Library.